Question everything, for the truth should not be televised. And that's for sure. So with that, you got CNN talking about 1942 to 1964, when about 4 million Mexicans was pretty much invited to come to America to work on the farms and stuff. The braceros, that's what they call them, the braceros. And they did a story about Carl on CNN talking about his experience as a bracero working in the fields. But CNN try to play us as if volunteering to come to work in the fields of the United States as Mexicans is the same as being enslaved to those fields as Aboriginal Negroes of America. Well, the braceros, Carl himself, he was able to leave the fields, in the working fields, and go back to Mexico anytime he wanted. And he came back anytime he wanted. And even went to fighting to try to stay in America after 11 years of being in America. He didn't want to go back. He wanted to stay. From what I understand, my forefathers and my ancestors didn't want to stay on plantations, nor did they fight to stay on plantations, nor did they have the opportunity to leave them whenever they wanted. And my forefathers was whipped, beat, burnt, lynched, children sold to different plantations, children enslaved in those plantations as well. And it wasn't voluntary. And they didn't get paid like the braceros did. That's just the truth of the reality of what happened to my ancestors. And in turn, we didn't have that luxury of coming to America because we was already here. We was mentally wiped clean after stop from reading for 200 years to trick us out of our identity, culture, heritage, land, and God, so that we wouldn't know that we was on our own land, that we was on our own soils, that we was POWs, and this was happening to us on our own land, in our own house. They came over here, the braceros, on their own from Mexico to come and do work in America to get paid to do so. And they volunteered to come here to do that work, to get paid. We didn't get paid. We never got paid. We never got justice for crime against humanity. And we never got our land back to where we're owning the majority of the land like we were when you first got here, if not all of the land. We still under a trick bag and oppression still to this day, under the so-called emancipation, a proclamation to mass incarceration. This is where we stand. This is where we at. We still demonized and still hated under hate crimes that jumped 1,000-fold by what the Federal Center for Ethnic Hate Crimes state still to this day in 2024 as number one on their list of United States. And we still haven't got a bill passed for protection against that hate crime. So that is happening to us here. People call us all sorts of names and demonize us in all sorts of ways and get away with it openly, even though we've been dealing with it for over 600 years. The braceros, they didn't deal with that. No Latinos have dealt with anything like that from the United States. And as long as we have been dealing with it from the United States, allegedly. This is just that reality. So CNN, when you try to compare or attach lies to our true history of what we do know, other than all of the shrouded and hidden history that we are under, it brings more shame to your people, and more shame to your system, and more shame to your empire, as if you care though. Because we know shame don't bother you. Dishonor don't bother you in this empire of what we call the greatest criminal empire the world have ever seen as the United States. Because if it did, you would have been gave us justice by now for the crimes against humanity under the Holocaust, massacres, and genocides you have done to our people. And the brutal mistreatment of our people still to this day, with the reverting the resources away from our community and holding the resources to bare minimum in our community to keep us under survival work so that way you can capitalize off of the depression and chaos and low self-esteem and different avenues of what you criminalize to be crime when we have to survive with barely nothing after the race riots and destruction that has been brought to our communities through the organization that you still allow to exist in your system called the KKK and many other different white supremacist groups, as well as white militia groups that still stand and flourish around this country, as well as sundown towns that still flourish around this country, that our people still are terrorized from, still to this day, CNN. So there's no comparison to what we have been through from this government and this system when it comes to any other nation being compared to us. Because yet we still endure. So when you think of the Brazeros or Carl, who you did the interview of, call it for what it is. They volunteered to come do work in America and get paid for that work, and that's exactly what they did. But we ain't never volunteered to be infringed upon. We ain't never volunteered to be Holocaust. We ain't never volunteered to be massacred. And we never volunteered to be genocide. And we definitely didn't volunteer to be put in shackles on our own land to work and make billions of dollars for a nation of people that'll never ever reflect on their wrong enough to even think about giving us any type of form of justice for the crimes against humanity done to us. We didn't volunteer for none of that. And in turn, we stand right now as I speak, diligent, still focused on trying to get reparative justice in the form of reparations, meaning the land that you owe us and the money that is owed to the land, to mechanize our land, to separate us into a form of liberation that we so desperately need still to this day, to regroup from the trauma and destruction that has been brought to us, that is still being orchestrated and controlled and narrated by your system under your control as the colonizers here in the United States, CNN. And until we get this justice and until we get this wrong written right, then we only going to stand to continue to push on and keep on pushing on. For there's no other nation that can connect to us as equal to what has happened to us as Aboriginal Negroes in America. It just don't stand. It just doesn't make any sense. It just don't connect. And with that, I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. For that is the question. You let me know. Peace, peace.